Welcome back to another World Cup fantasy video. Today we're going through the best wildcard team for Matchday 2, and I'm also going to talk about the best time to wildcard. For me, it lies between two match days, with one in particular being the standout, but of course there's always going to be pros and cons despite the many loopholes in this game. If you end up enjoying this video, then be sure to drop it a like, and let's try to get this to over 300 in general. And we're also looking to push on towards 18,000 subscribers. Thank you for all the support. We reached 17,000 the other day on stream. It's massively appreciated, and without further ado, let's get straight into this video. This game has a lot of potential, but unfortunately there are a lot of issues that we're all aware of with the transfer loopholes, especially with downgrading premiums to budget options and then using that money to upgrade an unlocked player to another unlocked player. So you in essence could have Kevin De Bruyne, Harry Kane, Messi, Neymar all in the same team within the same match day, even if you don't have enough money to really have all four of them at the same time. So there's a lot of problems with this game. Also with the points being kind of changed in terms of the point system. So now midfielders get 7 points for scoring a goal. It was originally 5, and that was the same as forwards, and you were supposed to get points for key passes and tackles. That hasn't been the case, so that's completely changed our strategy, and a lot of us maybe went for a balanced midfield, not that many premiums, if any at all, and now you want to get in on the likes of Kevin De Bruyne, Bruno Fernandes, and all these players that are more likely to score from the midfield. But unfortunately that's what they've done with this game, and I think has a lot of potential. Like I said, they've got some good boosters in there, even if they're not as powerful as in other games with the limitless chip, for example, but they're quite refreshing. There's some interesting ideas in here, but I think fundamentally the transfer system is what kind of lets this game down and puts a lot of people off from continuing to play it. But the reason why I've got the rules section here once again is to not go over all of that once again. It's to explain why I think the wildcard is best used in Matchday 2, but there's also some cons behind that, and in essence you could also use it in Matchday 3 as a result, but I wouldn't use it in the knockout stages as I talked about in my chip strategy, because I just don't think there's any point with that, especially with all the clarification we have gotten over the last week or two. Just to clarify, this video is being recorded before the Thursday games have taken place, so all the ranks and points are from the Wednesday matches, so you will see my final ranks and points in the deadline stream, so don't worry about that. And the same goes for the team selection video. Unfortunately, the points and ranks you'll see there won't be fully updated, but don't worry, you'll see all of that in the next stream. But let's talk about the wildcard. Why do I think the best time to use it is Matchday 2? Because you can cover Matchdays 2 and Matchday 3 with the wildcard, and the group stages is where you have the least amount of transfers available. As you can see here on screen, you get unlimited transfers pre-tournament. We've already gone through that stage. Then we get 2 transfers for Matchday 1 after the Matchday 1 deadline pass, so pretty much just for this week only, and your last opportunity to use these 2 free transfers is today. And then you've got Matchday 2, only 2 free transfers, and then Matchday 3, another 2 free transfers. So that's 6 overall during the group stages, but then compare that to unlimited in round of 16. Then you get 4 transfers for the round of 16, you get 5 for the quarterfinals, you get 5 for the semi-finals, and then 6 for the final. So I think even without the wildcard in the knockout stages, you are more than capable of actually assembling the best possible team and even have a 15-man squad for the knockout stages, and you don't need a wildcard in order to achieve that. But with a wildcard you can actually cover the best team possible for Matchday 1, which we've already gone through, Matchdays 2, and then Matchday 3. Now there will be a big issue here, so just to really clarify, what you want to do is wait for the Matchday 1 games to take place, for all of them to finish, and then you have a short window between that and when Matchday 2 begins. And before the Matchday 2 deadline, you want to activate the wildcard, and then you can build a team for Matchday 2 as you normally would. But throughout Matchday 2, you can bring out locked players, which means players that have already played, and then bring in players you want ahead of Matchday 3, and you'll have a good idea of which teams will have qualified, which teams have something to play for still, because you're already getting rid of these players that have already played, and you've seen how they've done in the first 2 match days. But you can still get things wrong, and some of the rotation can still affect you heading into Matchday 3. Now, if you're not completely sure about that and you can still get things wrong, like I said, then you could just wildcard in Matchday 3, and that's completely fine. You can just react to lineups and then bring in the players that you want, and you can actually deal with rotation in the best possible way. But with the wildcard in Matchday 2, what that enables you to do is cover 2 match days at the same time, where you're going to have only 4 transfers to deal with these 2 match days anyway if you didn't go for the wildcard. And in the knockout stages, there's no need at all for the wildcard. So my updated chip strategy, so to speak, for me, the 12th man was best used in Matchday 1. I've already used it myself on Kylian Mbappe. The wildcard is best used in Matchday 2, and the power captain, anytime between the quarterfinals and the final, I think, is the best time to use it. And at the moment, I am leaning towards using the power captain in the final itself, because that's where I typically get the captaincy wrong. The final tends to be a really tough game to call, and it could be absolutely anybody that ends up popping up with a goal or with an assist or anything else like that that can get you the most points possible. So I'm looking to use it between that stage, the quarterfinals and the final, and at the moment I am leaning towards the final for the power captain. And the wildcard, I'm looking to use it in matchday 2. If I end up not doing that, then the wildcard will probably be used in matchday 3. I just don't see myself now using the wildcard in the knockout stages. With the updated chip strategy covered already in this video and talking about why I think Matchday 2 is the best time to wildcard, let's just focus on the best wildcard team for Matchday 2. And you can also leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. There are so many nations and players to cover, and I won't be able to address every single one of them. So this is a really good base and foundation for you to do really well throughout the rest of the group stages. I've gone for 2 budget goalkeepers here in Noppert and Livakovic, and they're facing decent opposition, especially in the case of the Netherlands facing Ecuador, who definitely look pretty good against Qatar. And I think they will be looking to play for a draw, or at least not to concede against the Netherlands, and that could play into Noppert's hands in keeping a clean sheet. He's only 4.5 million after all. Then you got Livakovic later in the week, but Canada looked very impressive against Belgium, and they should have gotten a result. They didn't. So maybe double up in Croatia defense isn't the best possibility and the best choice in Matchday 2, but we'll get more into that when we cover the defense. I think these are 2 decent goalkeepers to cover in Matchday 2. Of course, you've got the premiums in Courtois and Alisson, who might be your cup of tea. If you have the funds, then they're definitely worth consideration. But Belgium looked very shaky. I don't expect too many clean sheets for them going forward. As for Brazil, we haven't seen how they played yet, but I think they're going to keep probably the most clean sheets, if not one of the most, in this World Cup. But I would just go for Noppert and Livakovic and spend the majority of our funds in terms of the rest of the outfield players. I've put less money in the defense in Matchday 2 compared to what I did in Matchday 1, which could be seen as a mistake to be fair, but I think a lot of the kind of other premium options are facing tough teams. You have Spain, as good as they looked against Costa Rica, they're facing Germany, where I don't really expect a clean sheet. Then you look at the likes of France defenders. Theo Hernandez looked great when he came on, he got the assist, but he's facing Denmark. So there's a bit of a conundrum here. Argentina facing Mexico, and there's a lot of pressure on them to win the final 2 games. So I think I'd just go for this. I would double up on Netherlands defense feasibly, although that could be seen as a mistake, and also on Croatia, but I think this is where the key issue would lie. I think I would rather have Borna Sosa to cover Croatia defensively. Borna Sosa was also very close to getting an assist. He's got a lot of attacking potential, as he has demonstrated for Stuttgart in the Bundesliga this season. So Livakovic could be seen as the one to drop in terms of this defensive back line out of all of these players available. But I think double up in Netherlands defense doesn't look too bad. The only issue is that they have in front of them a good team in Ecuador who could cause problems. But Dumfries, very offensive, and he is the best in terms of covering the Netherlands defense, even over Noppert, who is 4.5 million. And Luke Shaw got an assist in Matchday 1, and you could go for him or Trippier. I don't think there's a big difference between the two, but in recent games, Luke Shaw has gotten the goals and the assists, and he is generally seen as the more offensive fullback between the two, especially when playing for England. And it's a bit maybe weird to see because in FPL, Trippier pretty much never blanks, and Shaw is a really poor option in that game. But in this, it might be the other way around, where Shaw is actually marginally better than his fellow fullback. Then we've got Matty Cash, who kept the clean sheet in Matchday 1, and now he's facing Saudi Arabia. I think Poland can keep a clean sheet here. I know Saudi Arabia did the unthinkable, but I think in the other 2 games, I think Mexico and Poland will be able to get a result out of them. And let's wait and see. Of course, the World Cup is full of surprises, and you just never know what can happen. But Matty Cash at 4 million, you can't really go wrong. And he's also playing an offensive wing-back position for Poland, and he's already got 1 goal in 8 appearances for them. So Matty Cash, solid option at 4 million. And then we've got Marquinhos, who hasn't played yet at the time of this recording. And I think Brazil, like I said, have one of the best defenses in the tournament. And the next fixture, it says Serbia here, because like I said, we haven't seen their game yet in Matchday 1, but they're going to be facing Switzerland in Matchday 2, which could be quite tough actually. But I still think Brazil will get a clean sheet and also be able to churn out a result. I've invested a lot more money this time in terms of the midfield, and that's because they now get 7 points for scoring a goal compared to 5, which was supposed to be the case. But of course, as always, they changed the rules. So Kostic is in here mainly because of his creativity. I think he can get an assist. I think if key passes were a thing, then he'd be even better of an option. He's definitely capable of that. For club and country, he gets a lot of key passes in there, and he could stack them up, maybe even get 2 points from those 4 key passes or more that he's definitely capable of making. But of course, what we have to really rely on and hope for is the goals and the assists, and the clean sheet is a little bonus for the midfielders. Then we've gone for Bukayo Saka, who scored twice against Iran on his World Cup debut, and you could either go for him him or Bellingham, I wouldn't just say, oh, we got 15 points, you have to go for him now. But he is a good option, and from the England attack, he looks really exciting at the moment. You've also got Sterling at 8.5 million, but because Saka is only 8 million, Jude Bellingham 7.5, I would favour those two who are also more informed for their club, and they've been very consistent throughout the last year or so. Then we've gone for Bergwijn, who was actually really disappointing in matchday 1 against Senegal, but I think that the chances will be there for him against Ecuador. I know that Ecuador have a good defence and they haven't conceded in the last 7 games, but Bergwijn is still out of position, and I would expect him to start alongside Memphis Depay this time, and I think that is a better partnership compared to Bergwijn and Janssen, which we saw against Senegal. And then we have Kevin De Bruyne, who was actually really disappointing in matchday 1, but he was awarded man of the match, which he actually said is probably because of my name and nothing else. I didn't deserve it, but he's a really good player. He made a lot of key passes in matchday 1, which of course, like I said, aren't rewarded in this game as they were supposed to, but he can get the goals and assists, especially with the creativity he has. So I think De Bruyne is a great option, and he's the best premium in the game in terms of the midfielders. But what you might argue is I would rather just have Messi up front and go for Neymar, Kane, Mbappe, etc. over De Bruyne, and that's completely fair enough. But because of this change in point system, I would try to have one so-called premium midfielder, so to speak. That could be Bruno Fernandes, but he's going to be facing Uruguay in matchday 2, which I think could be quite tough for both teams. So I would just rather go for Kevin De Bruyne and cover Belgium, and also a premium midfielder in that way. The final midfielder, which you can see on the bench, is Kamada. Japan looked great against Germany. I know that Germany dominated the possession and had the bulk of the chances, but Japan have some quality players, Mitoma, Kamada, Tomiyasu, and they're going to be a tough team to beat, I think. I think Spain will top the group, and they could even beat Japan. But in matchday 2, I would thoroughly expect Japan to get the result there, and it could be Germany once again being eliminated in the group stages, which is unthinkable, to be honest, for the second time in a row. And I would go for a Japan player or two, and Kamada would be my pick there at only 5.5 million. And he also plays later on in the week, and obviously there's always these kind of budget loopholes or whatever. If you want to downgrade him, for example, to a 3.5 million option and then upgrade someone else to another premium, you can do that. I haven't done any of that so far in this tournament, and I don't think I will be doing it. And honestly, I think it's kind of a bit of a disgrace to have all these kind of different permutations and loopholes. But what we want to focus on is the best team for matchday 2, and I think this is a really solid midfield and a great team overall. You're going to see with the front line, it gets even better. We have gone for Giroud, Harry Kane and Neymar, but we have a few things to discuss with each of these players and potential issues. So with Giroud, I think the big problem is he's facing Denmark, who are a good team. They didn't show what they're capable of in matchday 1 against Tunisia, but they are a good team and they will be hard to break down. So Giroud might not be the best option on paper, and you've also still got Lautaro Martinez at 8 million, you've got Richarlison, you've got Gakpo, Mitrovic and many others between 7 and 8 million up front, Ferran Torres even against Germany. But I would probably go for Giroud against Denmark. I think he's a great option, and he's the all-time top scorer for France alongside Thierry Henry, and I think he will break that record in this tournament. Then you've got Harry Kane, who is a bit of a doubt to face the USA because he actually picked up an ankle problem and they had a scan, but I think the initial prognostic is that he will be fine and he should be ready to go against the USA, but they are still checking. So keep an eye on Harry Kane. He could be someone to potentially transfer out, and you could maybe go to someone like Messi instead, for example. So that's something to still think about. And by the way, we've got no Argentina players in here, but even against Mexico, I think 1 or 2 options could still be viable. You've got Acuna at the back. He's expected to start at 4.5 million. Then you've got Messi up front, but I wouldn't triple up on them, especially with all the pressure on Argentina going into matchday 2, and Mexico could be a really tough game. Mexico always try to step up their match when they play Argentina. It's a bit of a rivalry there, especially between the fan bases. The last forward we have, though, is Neymar against Switzerland. He is incredible for Brazil, and I think he will show that in matchday 1 against Serbia and also matchday 2 against Switzerland, and he will be one of the top scorers, if not the top scorer outright, in this World Cup tournament. So Neymar is a great choice as always, but like I said, if we get some news about Harry Kane and he's going to be out in matchday 2, you could easily switch him to Messi, and it doesn't really matter if you go into the matchday 2 deadline with this team. You can still make some changes retrospectively, like I said, and you can also take out locked players, so players have already played in matchday 2, and then bring in players ahead of matchday 3. We'll talk more about that when we get to that stage, but for the time being, there's no point kind of talking about that and discussing all the possible permutations and possibilities, because that would literally be quite endless. So That's the best wildcard team for Matchday 2 in my opinion. Let me know your thoughts. Like I said, I think a Spain forward or midfielder. I'm mainly looking at Asensio, Olmo, and also Ferran Torres up front. I think they would be the best options, but I wouldn't go for a Spain defender personally. I think Germany are definitely more than capable of scoring against Spain despite their shortcomings, and I also think you can go for many other options like Mitrovic up front, who I'll also discuss in the team selection video, so be sure to check that out. So if you enjoyed this video, found it useful, smash the like button and subscribe for new. Let's get this video to over 300 likes, and let's also push on towards 20,000 subscribers. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and you can also become a patron or a channel member. The links are in the description below, and the same goes to the World Cup Fantasy League and the Discord server. A quick kind of question that will be answered right here: who would be the captain in that team? Most likely I'd go for Harry Kane, and then if it doesn't go according to plan, then I'd probably switch it to either Kevin De Bruyne or Neymar. So I keep things very simple on that front. And of course, remember with a captaincy, you can only switch it once after your original captain has played. But thank you very much for watching this video. Take care, enjoy the rest of the World Cup tournament, and I'll see you next time.